In a world filled with screens and distractions, we invite you to reconnect with the natural world around you. Welcome to Nature Bound, a podcast dedicated to unpacking the intrinsic bond between humans and nature. We'll uncover the benefits of spending time outdoors, including how a nature-centric lifestyle can improve your mental health, elevate your leadership skills, and unleash your creativity. And now here's your host, outdoor enthusiast, and renowned author of The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, Emmanuel Rose.
Hello and welcome to the Nature Bound podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Rose, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with James. And James is a talented writer from Texas Saltwater Magazine and the co-host of the Texas Tales podcast. James brings valuable insights from his experience in outdoor journalism and storytelling, capturing the essence of nature and its impact on our lives. His unique perspective will certainly enrich our conversation today as we explore the intersection of nature, creativity, community engagement, and saltwater fishing. James, is it Kosub? Is that how do I
It's
say that?
Kosub, yeah. You got it right on the
Okay,
first try.
I guessed it right. Good, thanks for.
My own wife took a long time to get that correct.
Well, James, what in the world brought you into the world of writing and podcasting on the topic of saltwater fishing?
Well, and so yeah, we cover a lot on the podcast, but the magazine in particular is saltwater centric. I grew up, in South Texas, so a vacation to us was driving an hour, 2 hours south to go to the coast. That was the extent. We weren't a Disney family, if you will. We went and drowned shrimp.
There you go. I like that.
And I kind of always of my experience in the wildlife didn't necessarily like mimic the content that I saw out there, where we were like bare knuckle generalist. We used spinning reels, we drowned shrimp, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah, and so kind of as I got more experienced and more developed, and I always loved fishing and still do. My brothers and I, Chris, we pheasant hunt together, we fish together, we do everything together. And I kind of knew, I was like, all right, I want to talk about my experiences in the wildlife. Like I said, just a generalist opinion. I don't have a fancy boat. I run in kayaks. And so, yeah, I started, I wrote a law review article in my master's program about corner crossing. I'm sure you're yeah. So when the Ninth Circuit ruling came out on crossing, I wrote the law review article on it. That's supposed to be published in a few different journals now.
Awesome.
And so one of the journals was like, hey, we know this older guy on the Texas coast that loves fishing. What do you think about writing for him? And well, that's how I met Everett. And yeah, the rest has been history.
All right. Well, that's kind of a nice blend of your passion and kind of what you're skilled at. So that's pretty awesome. You must have. Do you run a dog when you're pheasant hunting?
I do. I have two. So the lab over my shoulder, I fortunately lost this summer. That's Colt. And I had him right now. I'm working on his article because he was more than special. And I always joked when I first met my wife, the first date we went on, I brought him, and she goes, "Did you bring that dog just to make sure I'd like you?" And I go, "No, I was making sure he liked you."
Exactly.
He was in the house first. But I grew up with labs in the same way that we drowned shrimp. We hunted over labs, and it was always funny because I know in the bird hunting or upland culture, it's the lab guy. You just can't beat the value of that dog. I mean, I've hunted over a lot of good pointers, and now I run a Vizsla and a lab. I got my new little pain in the butts running around out there right now. She's 13, 14 weeks old, little lab.
Oh, wow.
But you just can't beat the drive of a lab. They're so special.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the Flushing dogs too. I have a Springer Spaniel that he's getting up on there. He's 12 this year. And he made it through another year without being hurt. So, that's kind of when they get old like that, you just hope they could get through the season.
Well, and it's always the funny thing too. You see the two different paths in life: the Springer Spaniel and the Labrador. People like the great divide of hunting.
Yeah, and then there's the divide between the Flushers and the Pointers, right?
Well, and then it's so funny because with the Pointers, you have the German Shorthair crowd and the English Pointer crowd. It's such a little niche, deviances within it.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. Well, tell me a little bit more about the magazine and what you're doing over there. What
Yeah,
is that
so
like?
yeah, right. Basically, what ends up kind of equating to a monthly column. Most of my stuff is centered around. I always joked I wanted to be a fishing guide, and I still there's a part of me that may one day drop everything and just go become a fishing guide.
Yeah.
Um, but I always had a hard time with the lifestyle. I think it's a hard career path to take with a family and you know, being married, wanting to have kids and everything. It's not conducive for that lifestyle in a lot of ways. You know, every weekend you're expected to be busy and you're off Monday through Friday when everyone else is busy type deal.
Yeah.
Um, but I always loved kind of getting people to experience wildlife and kind of I've always had the opinion if you give somebody even a semi favorable first experience in hunting or fishing, you end up creating kind of an ally to the industry, if you will.
Yeah.
And I want you and not you because I think you already do, but I want you to care about my public lands as much as I do and my
Sure.
access. It's funny because in Texas, we're not a very public land friendly state. And so one of the
No.
limited things we really do have is saltwater access. And it's very impressive the amount of access we have with you know like Louisiana, our neighbor, privatizing some of its water. In Texas,
Uh-huh.
that's not the case. If it's navigable, it's yours.
Nice.
And so that's one thing that Texas does do right in public lands. And so I kind of always want people to care about that. And the first article I ever had published was how to guide when you're not a guide. And it was
Oh,
about getting people their first experience in saltwater, and it was their funny observations. You know, I'm 26. I've did this my whole life. You know, since I was a baby going down there to fish. So there's so much that I see that I just think is so like mundane or like oh, it's kind of like simple. And then
yeah.
that would be the things that somebody's like, oh, that's incredible. That's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I grew up as a fly fishing family, and so I call it orthodox fly fishing. Uh, we dry fly only, steelhead fishing was only throwing black flies, that sort of stuff. And it's the same
Purist.
thing. Yeah, yeah. We grew up orthodox, and so it's the same though when I take people fly fishing. It's just the way that you put the fly on around the reel and hook it on an eyelet, or all the knots that you have to know, and then just being out there, right? And the amount of wildlife that you and I have seen in our lives, where you see eagles and all the raptors and not to mention all the fish, and that you kind of just take that for granted as part of the theme of the event. But for a lot of people, they haven't seen it before, and it's the powerful thing.
Well, and how many people too go, God, you're so lucky that you're always there at that time. It's like, do you know how much time I spend in the woods to stumble across this cool shed or whatever it
Yeah,
is?
right. Yeah. So what does the content calendar look like for you at the magazine? How do you guys build that out? Like
Uh, what do you
themes
mean?
and
Oh, yeah,
articles
yeah,
and
yeah.
those sorts of things.
You know, so it's very guide centric, which is kind of cool because I always feel like the outsider, which I always feel like is kind of a natural position for me. It's a lot of guides that are writing, you know, things they're seeing in real time.
Yeah.
And I would say it's a very industry heavy magazine, which is always really neat because you're getting very like good, powerful insight from people that live it. And then you kind of get these people like I consider myself in this category, and there's a few other of us that are kind of writing it from the perspective of just a pure recreational. I love fishing, and I care about wildlife. I care about conservation. I care about public access, and so it's kind of interesting. You get a balance of that. And then you also do get some of like the little tips and tricks stuff where I always think that stuff's cool.
Sure.
You know, the new spinning reels coming out, and you know, the Stratic for Shimano, you can one hand clip it up, so when you hand it to your wife, it's ready to go. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I'd use
Yeah.
that.
Right. Yeah, and that's good. And now, are you in the flow of the bro deals and the pro deals for fishing gear?
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay. And also, do you know about this group called the Outdoors Writers Association? They're out of Montana.
Mm-mm,
So
no,
I'll send you that link.
please.
It's a really great organization that's been around since the 20s, and they have there'll be other people that are writing about similar things that you're writing about and help to guide you from some of the old timers. Yeah. Well, I think What are some of the things that you make sure that you do when you take a new person out and on a fishing trip for redfish or something like
Yep.
that?
Red drum, yeah, that's the fan favorite, and it's funny because now my father-in-law that he grew up offshore fishing, so he kind of laughed at the premise that we were going to go inshore. He's like, "What are we
Right.
like? What
Yeah.
mud catfish are we going after?" I'm
What
like, "Yeah."
possible fish would be worth my time?
Well, the funniest story is, so I took him on my bachelor party, and we of course went fishing,
Yeah.
and we were going with a couple friends of mine that are guides down there, and he came to me just really like bothered at the boat dock. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "James, all these boats only have one engine, and if you're
Oh.
not familiar with the Texas coast, it's
Right.
all flats for the most part. I mean, there is offshore structure, but what we
Yeah.
were fishing is like mud flats." And
Yeah.
I looked at him and I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, what happens if one of those motors breaks down? You walk home." And he's
Right.
and he's just kind of shaking his head and he goes, "And where are the life jackets?" I'm like, "Well, they're probably in the front of the boat." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Unless you're 13, you really don't have to wear it." And we get to the first spot. And he goes, "We are not going to catch a single fish in this." Because, like I said, Texas is so special with our barrier islands. We basically have these saltwater estuaries that are like 1 to 2 foot deep, grass flats for miles and miles.
Yeah.
And they are just wildlife havens. Basically, they're the best shrimp hatcheries that money can buy. And it holds, trout, redfish, flounder. Those are always kind of the big three, the Texas lamb. And then there's, of course, black drum, which are always, they're very like delicious little add on,
Yeah.
and they're super wildlife dense. So when I take somebody new, personally, kind of that's the first thing I try to familiarize them with. Is like, we're not going to the ocean in the colloquial sense. We're going to the
Yeah.
flats. And the big thing is always safety. And so it's really funny because the external factors when you're in shallow water, the risk is not there. What the risk actually ends up being is other people out on the water, more especially boats. Like I said, I
Sure.
utilize kayaks, making sure they see you. But yeah, so one of the big things I always try to tell people is have fun with it. You're talking about all the cool wild stuff, you see all the birds and everything else. Take that all in. We may not catch a fish. That's a reality you live in.
Right. Yeah.
But we're gonna
Yeah.
see some cool stuff. And I've taken a couple people now. I've got a little back lake that's like a duck pond, basically. That I don't understand what the dynamic is in the back. I know there's enough oyster, but it is just the most redfish heavy like pond, basically, is how it looks. And it's got an inlet and outlet, so fish can come in and out.
Yeah.
But it contains the most amount of tailing redfish. And my favorite thing is mid morning
Oh,
to
yeah.
take somebody in there and they just
Yeah.
get to see that tail softly coming out of the water. And they're like, "Oh, all these are monsters." I'm like, "No, there's like 3 monsters in here."
Right. No, it is, when I went to Belize, that was my favorite part of the bone fishing, right, was being able to sight cast of the tailors. Yeah, it's just like dry fly fishing, only reversed. Well,
A lot
that's
windier.
cool. What's that?
A lot windier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And now, tell me a little bit about some of the conservation groups that are out there helping keep keep access for public access. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's funny is we just as you said, I do Texas Tales, the podcast, and we just had somebody on from Delta Waterfowl, which is a
Oh,
local
nice. Yep.
waterfowl conservation group.
Yep.
And it's always funny because I'm not much of a duck hunter. It's too passive for me, but I have tremendous respect for it. I've done it. And that's one of the things I told the individual we had on from Delta Waterfall, Ryan Watson, the South Texas director. I was like, "I will always support y'all because I know at the end of the day, you want to access the same water I do. So you're
Yeah.
going to fight for the same boat ramps I'm going to fight for." And
Right.
I think that that's a really powerful tool. One thing I do wish for Texas, I think from a local level, like our local county level, wildlife commissions are really good and the individuals are active. We don't have a lot of statewide activity. Quail Unlimited was bigger when I was young, but
Yep.
it's just not the same. You don't have the same conscientious efforts that I would really like to see from the conservation side. CCA is really big down here. They're
Which
really
one's
good.
that? What's that one?
Coastal Conservation, they're
Oh,
right over my shoulder. They're the giant redfish with the CCA on it.
nice.
And they do a really good job with public access, and I think they've even done a couple privatized buyouts where they've bought out private
Oh,
land and turned it into public access.
yep.
And they've done a lot. the best thing that they do, I think, is they move the needle with people buying fishing license. So if you're not familiar and you're listening, the majority of your wildlife funding all comes from the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is all expenditures based around wildlife. So fishing licenses, fishing line, reels, guns, ammunition, any of those like service entities are what drives your wildlife funding. What
Right.
CCA does is they host the Lone Star Roundup, where they tag redfish with a little ribbon on them, and they're not keeper redfish. You just pull the little ribbon off, and you win a boat, a truck, RVs. I mean, and in great boats and trucks, like nice F-150s.
Yeah.
Not Joe's truck he's trying to get rid of, but like and so they just are a revenue drive, not only in their membership, but how many people are encouraged to go out on the water in the 1 in a billion or 1 in a trillion odds of,
Right.
hey, if I catch one,
It's better than playing the lottery, right?
one day.
Yeah, right. Well, what's kind of next for you what does your calendar look like? When's the fishing season in Texas?
So that's always the funny thing. I was talking to Josh, the co-host of Texas Tales, yesterday. I was like, I always thought fishing in Texas ended. I don't know why, but we were just raised that it's like once it got cold, you stop fishing. In reality, this time of year is actually pretty fruitful for us because it kind of gets everybody else off the water. You do have to
Yeah.
contend with duck hunters, but something really unique is our water is predominantly based off of wind patterns, our tidal
Mm.
patterns. So
Okay.
meaning we have very minimal impact from the true Gulf. Everything's our wind direction. And so when we get a north wind, naturally that starts pushing all the water out of the estuaries, which makes it
Yep.
really interesting because it congregates fish. It pulls all the shrimp and bait out of the grass, and it makes all these fish suddenly more accessible. And like I said, it congregates them. They start to school together, and you're not having to travel like in crazy amounts of water to search for a fish here, a fish there.
So you've got fishing all year long, or how
Yes,
do the
sir.
seasons work? Yeah.
Yeah, so realistically, your flounder get better this time of year, which our flounder season does temporarily shut down through. I think it's like the 14th of December, because this is their big time where they're all starting to flush out to the Gulf to go procreate. So your flounder season shut down, but it's a great time to go catch and release if you wanted to, and you'll catch some truly special ones. The redfish are super active right now. What people in Texas they like, there's a purist side that pursues the speckled trout.
Okay.
And right now, when you get these cold fronts, that's when the biggest trout start moving. And they're pushed back. They've already spawned. They're in their kind of like wintering range, if you will. So
Yeah.
you've got some really big speckled trout that these guys are just waiting till 2 days after a big cold front and 2 days before a cold front. They're pushing out hard.
Wow, that's cool. All right, so I got the map here, and if we just say there's Louisiana on one side and there's Mexico on the other, whereabouts are you?
I'm like smack dab in the middle, pretty much.
Okay. Well, so you get your choice of wherever the best fishing is, huh?
It is. It's really Texas coast is so unique because it changes so much. And like the further east you go towards Louisiana, I've always kind of found that the redfish was always better, the crabbing's particularly better. And then the Laguna Madre section, which is like if you went just due south from San Antonio and
Yeah.
then started going west after you hit the coast, that would be the Laguna Madre, and that's always been special for me for trout. I know people have caught tarpon in that area. Some people caught some pretty good snook out there.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of like unique and cool species. Like it's kind of like where I'm at. I'm in the central area where I'm about an hour and a half north of the coast, and I can go left or right basically out of my gate, and I'm going to drastically different water.
Wow. Well, that is so you're just really held up by how much gas you have in the truck at the time,
Yeah,
huh?
how long I can be away really dictates how many fish I can catch.
Yeah, I get you. If somebody has always wanted to fish the Texas flats like that, and is there resources in the Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine for people to find lodging and guides and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of our guides and contributors are, in fact, I'm sorry, the majority of our contributors are guides.
Yep.
And so they'll give you a pretty powerful insight on kind of like if you want to be a do-it-yourself guy, that's one of the things that I write about is I want to make it an affordable opportunity to see if fishing's for you. Because I just want you to buy your license. I'll be clear about my ambitions. I want you to
Yeah.
spend money in the wildlife sector because it benefits me as an outdoorsman at the end of the day.
Right.
So I want to present it in a way that your average guy with a moderate salary has a little kid wants to take him fishing. What does that look like? And actually, in the December edition, I wrote about death, taxes, and surf trout. And the whole premise of the article was basically like, if you want a surefire, boat-free way to go catch a trophy fish, go after the surf trout when they call it our green water comes in,
Uh-huh.
and it's normally the first week of June. Our coastal currents switch, and we start getting what's called green water, which is warmer currents. It's coastal water starts actually coming into the barrier island, and it contains a lot of really big speckled trout. And so you grab a couple croaker, and I mean, it's the most basic rig ever. It's a 3000 series reel. It's a 7-foot rod. You can go to Walmart and get set up for under 30-40 bucks,
Yeah.
and a couple dozen croaker, and you have a great time. That in the article is funny. So the day after I got married, or the day before, well, back up. The day before I got married, I went down and had to do some honeydews to set up for our place for our rehearsal dinner.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna go down the night before. I'm gonna sleep on the beach and I'm gonna go catch trout. I've always thought when I had a good showing of wildlife, it was like a good sign for me. It's a good omen.
Right.
And I just killed it on trout. And I'm like, man, I've always heard surf trout are really like predictable and easy. This is extraordinary. And so I picked up, I think I bought a dozen croaker, and I literally caught a dozen trout all over 16 inches, like, and great eating trout. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is like, no, I didn't struggle enough. This doesn't make sense. And so we got married. My wife and I got married on a Thursday. So we went down on a Wednesday. And so I think it was Friday, the day after we got married. And I was like, hey, I want to go back and catch trout. And my wife's a great sport. And she was like, yeah, all right, let's go. Okay. And so we were staying down there. We got married down on the beach and everything. So next morning we wake up at like 5 a.m. We go buy our croaker. We go out there. And we had like 15 croaker, or I'm sorry, 18 croaker. And I think we caught like 15 huge trout. And I was like, this is like the most user-friendly means for, like I said, Joe Blow's a dad, wants to take his kid fishing, catch a cool
Yeah.
fish. Why is everybody not doing this?
I love it. Well, tell me, as we're closing up here, what's one of the most memorable things that you've experienced while you've been out on a fishing trip?
The thing that made me fall in love with the Texas coast. So I had, like I said, I had fished from the bank and piers for most of my childhood. My parents were like, hey, we'll go buy shrimp. Like I said, go drown shrimp. That's
Yeah.
our summer plans. And I bought so right before COVID happened, we bought a solo skiff, and it's basically a motorized kayak is the best way to describe it. And my brother and I got it together, and then he found out he was having his third, and then eventually his fourth kid, and was like, man, I got to get a bigger boat. This doesn't work. And I was like, all right, well, we sold it during COVID, and we did really well on it. And we stumbled into 4 pedal drive Hobie kayaks.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, cool. Well, now we can take more people when you're, as his older 2 are old enough now, they can do their own thing in the pedal kayaks, and we go out, take them. Well, I was off on a random Friday. I went down, and I had told my wife, and I was like, look, I'm not going to be home at a reasonable hour. I just want to go down and putz around and kind of enjoy life. And I would get my master's. I was taking night classes for my master's and working at a metal finishing shop. So I had no time. And I was like, it's a random Friday. I just want to go down and fish. She's like, go, do whatever you want. Enjoy life. Great. So I got down there, and it was kind of a slowish morning. And I think it was like 9 a.m. And at that duck pond I was describing earlier, it's the first time I'd ever found it or fished it. I'd fished near it before. I pushed into it, and it was at least 27 or 30 redfish just all tailing. It was no wind. And I just sat in the entranceway, and it like almost made me emotional, where I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I had this like weird aha moment where I'm like, I have made it as a fisherman. Like, I figured something out. Like, I've always heard of this, but I found it. And it was just that weird moment of like, all right, I don't suck at this. Like, I can always get better, but I'm at least getting somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That is one of the things that we know psychologically about time and nature is it builds our self-efficacy, right? We're solving these mysteries that are on different rhythms than we're used to in culture.
And they don't play by the rules.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's not rational by Cartesian standards. So that's an awesome story. I had a similar feeling this year when I was solo goose hunting up in Saskatchewan, where I was managing the scouting and the decoy setup and the wind direction, and then actually getting to harvest some birds. And it's just like, okay, I actually have made it as a waterfowl hunter, and it's a cool feeling of efficacy. So,
what was your perception on the goose meat? Were you a fan?
Well, there's different layers or different strata of geese. So we hunt for the speckle belly geese or the white.
Yeah.
And so that's the best. Well, actually, the absolute best is the sandhill crane.
Oh yeah, the ribeye in the sky. They have the best marketing program too.
Yeah. So it kind of goes. It goes speckled belly geese, snow geese, Canada geese, and that's my impression of goose. And I think the other thing that people do incorrectly with waterfowl is they overcook it. Waterfowl should be brined for 4 hours or more, and then it should be grilled for 3 or 4 minutes aside. And keep it rare, and then it is very pleasurable to eat at those specifics.
Well, the perception is always it's poultry. It's like, no, it's fowl.
No.
You're fine. Yeah, the cooking standards are very different.
Yeah, exactly. Well, James, I really appreciate you spending some time here tonight, talking with me about hunting and fishing, and anything I can do to help you with conservation in Texas and on the saltwater. You let me know, and
I will.
Because I agree with you that the biggest challenge we face as sportsmen, is access. And we got to keep the dollars flowing so that so we can maintain the access. So, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to see some of your work and have a conversation?
Yeah, if you're able, pick up a copy of a paper magazine. I know everything's available digitally at Texas Tales or Texas Saltwater Fishing Magazine. You can read everything, and I believe they're doing a new promotion where all the online content's free. All you got to do is sign up.
Nice.
But if you have the ability, grab a magazine. It's just something special about it not being on a screen in today's day and age. I love it. I think it's so antiquated and perfect at the same time. And then, like I said, the podcast is officially out. We'll be launching our 3rd episode on Sunday night, and that's at Texas Tales Pod, everywhere on social media, and on YouTube. We have the best guides, the best biologists, best conservationalists that you can have in the Texas wildlife industry, and they'll give you some powerful insight. Even if you're not from here and want to learn something about us weirdos from Texas, listen.
All right. Well, James, I'm grateful for your time tonight, and I hope you have a good one. And I appreciate what you're doing for the sport and the animals.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, you betcha. It's a powerful reminder that the dollars that we're spending as in the sports that we love, these outdoor sports, are part of how we maintain the access. And I also want to reiterate what James was saying, which is to take some people who haven't been out, make it a point to adopt somebody and show them the sport that you love, whether that's hunting or fishing, spinning or spin casting or fly fishing, and bring some more people into the sport. So I hope this has been valuable time for you and you enjoyed the episode. Want to encourage you to get outside and enjoy some dirt under your feet and get away from the screens. Emmanuel Rose, Nature Bound.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Nature Bound. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's episode, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to purchase your copy of the 7 Principles of the Magic Rock at emmanuelrose.com or on Amazon. We thank you again for joining us today, and remember to get nature bound.